morning, good afternoon, good evening, Royal family. Welcome back to Royal Productions. Now, if this is your first time, basically what we do here is cover crypto news, blockchain, and anything that has to do with the structural shift of the global financial market. So if you like that type of news, you know what to do. Now let's get right into these markets and news I have for you. So let's look at these markets really, because we called it, y'all. Yesterday's video, we called it was coming back down. And look what's happening. There's a little bit of rebound here, but as you can see, we marked it here on this total crypto market. It almost came down to this point to the T. And if you guys haven't seen the videos in the past, make sure you go back and look at that, because it's all about looking at the markets and doing your own research. Okay, never take anything in these videos as financial advice, as personal advice. Do your own research always. Okay, moving on. Bitcoin lacks the fresh investors that matter more than strategy sells, Citi says. So basically, we covered this yesterday. If you guys haven't seen it, go check out my page. But basically, we talked about how Michael Saylor and their strategy, this was part of their plan to sell some Bitcoin, even though he said never sell Bitcoin. As a thesis, as a business, as a strategy, like, that didn't make sense. You know, if it comes down and you need capital and stuff, you would have to sell as a business. So they sold, but that's not the biggest problem. We covered the whole Mt. Gox things and how a lot of Bitcoin was transferred to a wallet. I don't really think that's affecting the market as well. Remember, always do your own research. But Citi said strategies recent Bitcoin sale was part of the previous disclosed tax optimization plan and does not alter the firm's broader strategy. So again, you guys have to do the research when they put these papers out, when they put their filings out. You guys have to go look at them if you really care about the information. Don't just speak out of your butt. Okay, I try to cover the news that are on these articles, and that's all I do. When I give my opinion, it's mostly because I know other things in the market that I don't cover here. But always do your own research. Remember that. I can't stress that enough. But anyways, the bank estimate a spot ETF Bitcoin flow explains roughly 45% of the weekly Bitcoin price moves and remains the best gauge for investors. So again, these investors are in play now. These ETFs are messing with the market. We've covered the manipulation on a grand scale, and it's because of the institutional players. It's because of the ETFs. You know what I mean? It works differently than you actually holding the asset yourself. You get what I mean? There's gauges for these ETFs where they look into the future. They look into the details. They look into the economics of the world and the data that comes from the governments. So that's the difference between a retail investor, you know, who's been playing around with this market, and somebody who is an institutional investor. Okay, like them. All right, like Citi. They understand these things. Okay, Bitcoin hits a power law level low that historically precedes a rebound. I want y'all to try to say that's a tongue twister. Power law level low. But anyways, so basically this is a chart. This is my first time hearing about it, so I'm giving it to you guys fresh. But basically this person covers this chart over time, and basically I read it down here. Let me unlike a traditional cycle based model that focuses on the rate at which new Bitcoin is created, it cuts by 50% roughly every 4 years. The power law argues that Bitcoin follows a long-term mathematical trend similar to the patterns observed in nature, where growth decelerates over time. And I've kind of covered this before in a video a long time ago, where okay, the vibration of the currency we're using as a species alters our perception in the world. So when you talk about a hard precious asset, it's vibrating at a low frequency rate because it's tangible. You can hold it in your hands. I'm not gonna go too deep into this, but with Bitcoin, it alters on a different scale of frequency. You get me? So the bandwidth of the frequency of this money, this fiat Bitcoin, the whole idea of it changes the perception of how we see the world. And this goes hand in hand with you know, the Fibonacci sequence and all of that, and how this person is tracking this using this sequence. That's basically what it is. This is him. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's a physicist. Okay, and he covers these things, and I kind of see how that makes sense, because as we grow consciously, things we use in the world around us are going to have to grow, and vice versa. So like that's why I love covering this, because it's bigger than just money. It's bigger than just like politics. It's bigger than just what we think. This has to do with changing our perception of the world. Like our parents and grandparents, how they moved in the world is different from us today, because we have the internet, because we have blockchain, because we have debit cards and stuff like that. So you have to look into the future and see what things are going to be there. We don't know. I mean, no one can tell the future, but you can see the signs in which they are pushing us in the direction of. Okay, moving on. Kraken partners Payward plans to offer tokenized IPO access as investors await blockbuster debate. So this is great because this is the first time that investors and retail are going to be buying the same APO at the same time. The IPO, sorry. Under the X-Stock framework, IPO allocation will be aggregated across participating platforms with tokenized shares backed by one-to-one underlying stock held by regulated custodian. So basically, Payward, the partner of crypto exchange Kraken, plans to let retail investors buy into the US listed IPOs at the same offering price as institutional investors through tokenized shares. Level playing field. Listen, institutions are here, but do not be sidetracked. Do not be faked out by the manipulation here. Know what you hold and understand what you want in the future. That's the only way this is going to work. You can't sit here and listen to these videos. You have to know what you want. My point being is we're up against the big dogs now, and we actually have a fighting chance, but it's gonna take everyone to do that personal work. You know what I mean? Okay. IREN, excuse me. Too much ranting. I just need to cover the articles and go from there. Anyways, IREN adds a 4% pre-market as company unveils 800 megawatt Australian AI data center campus. If I'm ever saying something wrong, y'all, please correct me. Don't sit up here and let me just be saying things wrong. Please correct me, because I'm trying to learn as well. But basically, 800 megawatts, use ChatGPT, best friend, but basically 800 megawatt cities. This is basically the size of 1.5 to 2 million residents of power being given to this AI data center. But basically they basically announced a plan for 800 megawatt data center campus in South Australia, one of the biggest AI infrastructure projects announced in the Asian Pacific region. Isn't this wild to me? We can build these large campuses for AI and data, but we can't do it for the homeless. We can't do it for the people in real need, a school. So you're talking about you're building this data center that uses this much power just for information, but we can't help regular people. You know what? I'm not even gonna go into that. My point is, you guys, they do not care, and you have to understand they're setting up a framework for the future where you think it's bad now, and the future is gonna be worse. Okay, but just look at the agenda. But basically, this is be something to invest in, not financial advice, but this is going to be basically in South Australia. And that's what I like about blockchain, y'all, and crypto. You can get into these markets around the world. Why? Because you're not pegged to the petrodollar anymore. You have a level playing field to go do whatever you want, as long as you do it the right way. Okay. All right. Grayscale launches lowest fee US hyperliquid ETF as competition heats up around hype. So we've said that a lot of times here, y'all. It's about the liquidity. Whoever is able to gather the most liquidity will win this race. Okay, and as you can see here, they're cutting each other's heads off. All right, this is a snake cutting each other's heads off. All right, this is the Medusa of the big Hydra, actually. Anyways, 21 shares hyperliquid ETF THYP began trading on Nasdaq on May 12th with a 30%, well, 0.30% expense ratio. Bitwise BHYP launches 3 days later on the New York Stock Exchange with a promotional 0% fee for the first month, and then rose to 0.34. On a normalized basis, Grayscale's 29% fee is now the lowest among the three offerings. People don't understand these little things, these little percentages might not mean a lot to some people, but they're a lot. Okay, they're a lot to the big players. When you're talking about billions and trillions of dollars of flowing assets, it's a lot. Like I said before, it's all about who has the best networks, who has the best infrastructure when it comes to the ETFs and stuff like that. And right now it's a doggy dog world, and that's why when we talk about ETFs and what's happening with the market and all this, you can start to see the whole idea of everything. You know what I mean? Citi talks about it. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know what I mean? It's one of the things. Remember, always do your own research. My name is Louis. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. I'm out of here. Peace.